against the lot. And I believe that number was somewhere around $97,000 of the land assessments. The extra that was included were the costs that the city would have incurred under some normal circumstances. The cost for the deed work, some of the soils reviews that they've undertaken, they paid for all of that up front. And that's one of the nice things about working with a very large company is that. One of the frustrating parts is we did everything from a distance. I think we worked with 3 or 4 different architectural firms. They did only have one attorney, but she was from Arkansas. The contractor is, I believe, from Illinois, but hiring subs. So it's been kind of a struggle to figure out who exactly to talk to. Didn't have a human being, standing right there at the desk that you can work these issues through. But I certainly appreciate Kathy's efforts. She had to reiterate, I think, 2 or 3 times that there's a way to work it out so you don't need a side yard variance. And they finally understood what she was trying to say. Otomo's worked really close with them as well to make sure that they put that building in the right spot. But, the city's getting everything they asked for price-wise, and the building should be put up in operation by next spring.
Let it start this fall?
They should get, once we're going to close on the 30th, the building permit should be issued shortly thereafter, or handed to them, I guess, at that point. And then they can start working over the ready. They've already marked and located the utilities. So
Any local contractors who would be?
I have no idea. No idea. My guess is probably not.
So you got probably just like Quick Trip, they got their own screws. I move that we enter into this purchase agreement with SMR Positions for the amount specified.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dahl, second by Mr. Colvinson.
Just a question.
The only question I had was I talked to a manager in training in the spring in Stewartville. He was from Preston. And I kind of played dumb at the time, and I played it, but I didn't know.
Academy Award.
And asked him, the question is, Rushford going to get one? And he said Preston, Chatfield, and then Rushford. That's what he had heard.
In that order?
That's what he'd heard. So that's all I know.
My understanding is they haven't even started tear down of the Preston site. So ours should be
Over yard.
Yeah, I think ours will be up before that.
I hope so.
But it's not really a question of who gets there the first. I think it's just, this will be an interesting development for the community.
Would you entertain a friendly modification of your motion to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the closing documents?
Other than that, to stipulate that.
It's unbelievable, the product they got. They got just, there's a lot of stuff, $5, $6, $7 too. It's not only dollars.
You amend your second?
Huh?
You amend your second?
According to what Terry said? No.
What?
You want to amend?
Change the motion to allow for the clerk and the mayor to sign the closing documents as well as the purchase agreement. Is that okay?
That's okay.
It'll happen on Friday. It'll happen on Friday, so.
The 30th.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. And Kathy's got her tentative ceremonial done. Well, I just won't sign anything, she doesn't give me a pen.
One letter,
You're swearing.
another pen, another letter.
Yeah.
We're running out of pens.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Number 9, ordinances. There are none this evening. Number 10, reports, updates, and miscellaneous. Anything that needs to get covered here?
I think I've updated the council about Les Ladowig driving across the Hamlin Park, access the property that he's building in the village. talked to him last week, and he came in today to talk about what had transpired, and I know there's a electric easement back there along the property, and he apparently had talked to Jeff in the spring, and Jeff had said, yeah, go ahead and drive along that utility easement to get back there. Well, I wasn't aware of that. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, because it's rutted out, that property, and you know, I had Adam go up and talk to him, just ask him to find a different way to get back there. He came in today and basically, you know, said there's really no other way to get back there, and I said, well, there is. If you follow that driveway, or that road goes past the pond, and it ends with those two red stop areas, you know, that to me is the way to access that property. It's not driving across the ground. So, I talked this over with Terry. I mean, that is a platted street. It doesn't attach to a platted street, so he would still have to get approval from the person that owns that property to be able to drive across it. But unless the council can think of another reason, that to me would be the only way to access it from that location. I know that he is planning to construct a driveway to the south that would hook into a private drive that then hooks into that cul-de-sac, Humboldt Drive, I believe it is. And we've looked a little bit at that private drive, and there may be an issue with that. We'll have to work that out with him as it comes up. So, he may have an access issue. I told him it's not any fault of the city's. You can't just build a house and then just demand access to it. It doesn't work that way, especially if you're in a different city. But, again, I think the remedy is to go up that paved street.
They would have to bypass and go onto somebody else's property, you're saying, to
get back to where his is.
There is a no trespassing sign up there.
He has to access from the city property to his, it's that same person's property, whether he goes where he is now or up to using the actual street, so.
And again, that's not our issue. He has to get that easement.
We just don't want the liability. Use the street. You know, it's essentially what Steve and I agreed upon, if there's a paved street, use it, that's it.
So, if somebody asks you, hey, he's driving up on the street, well, that's what we want him to do. We don't want him to drive across the Hamlin Park and rut the ground out. Okay, is that,
Okay.
just, let everybody know.
Sounds logical.
Okay.
Gonna have to work. Anything else?
Is there any other questions?
How is the motel proceeding?
We're still waiting for them to get back to us on the proposal that we made to them 2 weeks ago. But I'll talk to them this week and touch base. I talked to the architect last week about the co-op project, and they revised some of the drawings. Schwab is still getting the final bid numbers together so that they can bring that information to the council or to us, and we can plug that in to the final documents. We try to get him to sign a letter of intent for the loan so that we could process it through the bank and get that rolling, but he doesn't want to do it until he's got final numbers. So it's
Are you talking about the city community center?
Yes,
I was talking about the motel.
I answered that.
Oh, no, okay.
I moved on. Yeah. Sorry.
I think I missed that.
The motel is, I'm gonna get ahold of the Locans this week. I'm
Okay.
waiting for them to respond to the EDA's or the EDA's, whatever, yeah, proposal 2 weeks ago.
Anything else?
And the air show in September 28th.
So, 28th? Yep.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second. Motion by Mr. Coles, and second by Mr. Bonzi. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.